Good morning, traders. This is Shane Scott, the moderator of Newsware's Trade Talk. At Trade Talk, we're providing you with the up-to-the-minute news on the market, along with the facts, themes, and short-term trading ideas for the day ahead. Joining me today is our trading anchor, Bill Olson, who brings over 30 years of institutional trading knowledge to our program. Let's get things started with our markets update. U.S. futures are mixed this morning, with S&P futures up 0.25%, Dow futures down 0.11%, and Nasdaq futures up 0.41%. The Nasdaq 100 has seen the heaviest losses since the pandemic meltdown, shedding almost $900 billion of its value in a week. Performance like this, coupled with a small panic seen from global markets, sent U.S. government bond yields to their highest level in a year. Increasing worry looms over traders that accelerating inflation could trigger a pullback in monetary policy support that has fueled gains in risk assets amid the pandemic. Federal Reserve officials are saying that surging Treasury yields reflect optimism and have stressed that the central bank has no plans to tighten policy prematurely. Elsewhere in markets, oil retreated from its highest in more than a year, and over in Europe, bonds ticked lower while stocks in the region paired less after the benchmark stock 600 slipped more than 1% at the open. Bill, what are you seeing as far as market updates?
I see the market updating every few seconds. We're running from going higher on the S&Ps to lower on the S&Ps. This balancing between positive, negative territory has been going on all morning long. Essentially, the tumble in the Asian markets is really said to be based on the theory of increasing bond yield is indicating higher inflation. And what's the solution to higher inflation? Well, you have to raise interest rates. That's how you whip inflation. Now, the Fed is willing, and they've been very clear that they're willing to let inflation run hot on multiple occasions. They're willing to accept higher inflation, and they're highly unlikely to increase any interest rates this year. If you remember, we had runaway inflation in the early 80s, and what did the Fed chairman Paul Volcker do? He let interest rates go as high as they needed to go in order to whip inflation, and it worked. We're in a different period now. We're in very low interest rates. Inflation is very moderate to low. It's okay for it to go a little high. It's okay. You don't need to be moving interest rates. So the concern of moving the interest rates right now is premature. And it's likely to be, in the sell-off that happened that you saw in Asia, it really wasn't warranted because it was more technical driven than fundamental driven. The range, continues to be tight in the S&Ps, and but I'm still keeping my eye on the earnings report because that's that really does create volatility in the market.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving into earnings to watch today, but what type of earnings are we seeing?
Well, let's talk about CRM, that's Salesforce. Charlie, Richard, Mary, they beat by 27 cents on higher revenue last night. It was a good solid beat. It's a good solid company, but the valuations are really too high. The stock's trading off $6 this morning, or 2.63%. Then we're talking Beyond Meat, that's ticker BYND. These guys lost it. They missed by 29 cents. It was a big miss, but on the announcement, the stock tumbled, it cratered. But in the same announcement, they said they just issued a 3-year deal with McDonald's to be their preferred meat supplier, or fake meat supplier, which turned the stock around. And now the stock's up 5%, or $7.75 in the pre-market. Caesars, this is Caesars Entertainment. That's ticker Charlie Zebra Richard, CZR. You're not seeing any movement in the stock, but they really missed by 15 cents on lower revenue. Stock was off, 5% yesterday in the aftermarket. It's not trading yet today. Dell Computers, that's ticker DELL. They delivered a nice solid beat last night. They beat by 49 cents on higher revenue. I see the stock trading down about 0.5% this morning. Okay, in Etsy, that's ticker ETSY, they topped fourth quarter estimates by 49 cents. You're seeing the stock up 8% today. It sold off for a little bit there because tech valuations, They're very high. They pushed it down for a little bit, but you can't keep Etsy down. This thing just rallied up $16 or 8% this morning. And of course, Shake Shack, they beat by 8 cents on lower revenue, and you're seeing the stock trading a little lower this morning.
How about insights as far as upcoming earning announcements?
Well, you know what? We're looking into next week. We have Lemonade that's coming out with their earnings. They're posed for a 4.9% move. NIO, the car manufacturer, they're priced for a 7.3% move. 3D, that's ticker DDD, they're priced for a 5.6% move. Now, Lemonade is interesting to me because last quarter the stock sold off on the release, even though they released better than expected numbers and they raised guidance. Valuations are really high. They need to deliver something substantial in order to justify the stock price, which is essentially doubled in the past quarter. So, you think of that and you got to say, it's a little too expensive. They need to produce. They're going to be introducing a question and answer session on their session for shareholders on on their Monday's earnings report, which is kind of interesting. Let's move on to Triple D, the 3D Systems. It's ticker DDD. These guys were supposed to release already. They pushed it back. They pushed it back till March 1st, which is Monday. The stock has tripled in price this year. And in the 8K filing that just came out, the company said in the course of preparing the company's financial results for the fourth quarter and for the full year of 2020, the company discovered internal control deficiencies. As a result, the company may report one or more material weaknesses in internal controls in its upcoming annual report. As the date of this release, they feel that there's no misstatements identified in the prior year financial statements as a result of these deficiencies, and the company expects to report, on Monday. This is just negative news, and the stock will probably sell off a little bit today. So just keep an eye on ticker DDD today.
Moving into economic reports, Bill, what type of reports are we expecting today?
At 8:30, we have international trade in goods as the advanced number. We also have the advanced number on retail sales and personal income and outliers. They all come out at 8:30. At 9:45, we have the Chicago PMI. 10 o'clock, we got the consumer sentiment number. And at 1 o'clock, we want to be watching for that Baker Hughes rig count, which is likely to jump again this afternoon when they release the numbers.
Moving into our morning's critical insights, starting things off with one on Eli Lilly, ticker LLY. The U.S. government has agreed to purchase a minimum of 100,000 doses of two COVID neutralizing antibody therapies that have been given FDA emergency use authorization. The purchase agreement is for $210 million worth of doses, which will be delivered through March 31st. The government will have the option of buying 100,000 more doses to follow. One on Apple, ticker AAPL. The European Commission is backing away from its claim that Apple is talking to the World Health Organization about developing vaccine passports, which was an argument that President Ursula von der Leyen was using to encourage governments to take matters in their own hands. One on Boeing, ticker BA. A Boeing 777 aircraft operated by Russian airline Rossiya made an emergency landing in Moscow early this morning after the pilot reported a problem with the engine. The type of engine it had remains immediately unknown, so whether this correlates to the Pratt & Whitney engines that Boeing advised suspending earlier this week also remains unknown. So Boeing's share price is down 0.27% in pre-market. Expect more on that later. In other news, United Airlines is offering a new luxury bus travel service from Denver International Airport to Breckenridge and Fort Collins with bags and ski equipment automatically transferred beginning March 11th. One on Digital Turbine, that's ticker APPS. Otello has agreed to sell Ad Colony to Digital Turbine for $400 million. Lastly, for me, Domtar, ticker UFS. The CEO, John Williams, will return from medical leave and assume his position starting Monday, March 1st. Bill, what are you seeing as far as this morning's news?
Shane, I break my news down into specific alerts based on events and sectors. Just allows me to see the hot news very quickly. I can decide very quickly if it is an impactful story that will likely create volatility in the stock price. So I'm watching these alerts all day long. And my FANG alert, I keep watching because there's a lot going on and it's not really being talked about. But that big tech conference, in Congress started yesterday. This is where the congressional members are really getting together to discuss, is big tech hurting the economy and stifling competition? There was another tongue lashing from congressional members, who are alarmed at the outsized market power of these big tech firms. The House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, they held their first panel meeting. It gives the senators and congressmen the ability to go out there and make quick, sharp-witted statements of how bad these companies are. The one thing you have to realize is the volatility that's going to be surrounding these meetings is likely to really come into play around the March 25th. That's when the CEOs are going to start to talk. So, until then, it's going to be, a little bit treading water to lower, but that's when we're going to have to start seeing some fireworks towards the later end of March. I have my Dow Jones 30 alert that I watch all the time, and beyond, McDonald's signed a 3-year global strategic agreement with BYND, Beyond Meat. I did see this on Boeing. The Australia regulator just lifted the temporary suspension of the Boeing 737 MAX. And of course, you get the Johnson & Johnson FDA panel to review their COVID-19 vaccine. This is the one-shot vaccine that's supposed to be happening later today. My dividend alert, ticker LYB. They just declared a dividend of $1.05. That's a 4% yield. That's not bad in this environment. Let's take a look at Crown Holdings. That's ticker Charlie Kilo, CCK. They just did a repurchasing agreement, repurchasing a news story that the company has approved up to $1.5 billion in a stock repurchasing plan. Moving into my FDA announcement, I just want to kind of bring this up real quick. Is we talked about Serapina, that's ticker SRPT, earlier in the week. Well, stocks seem to run into FDA announcements, and this is one that has been running, has been looking good. Well, yesterday they got the approval, from the FDA, and the stock moved $5 on the news. As always, you buy the rumor, you sell the news. When it came out, the stock just jumped up. It gave back most of the gains. It's still positive on the day, but Serapina really moved on that FDA announcement because that's a big one.
Moving into our trade talk picks for today, I'm going with Johnson & Johnson, ticker JNJ. This is one I want to get in under $163. Their single shot vaccine is set to get FDA approval today. So I think we can expect to see a little bit of the pop in their price tag for that. I would look in getting in under 163, see some small price appreciation, maybe get a few points and get back out again, make some conservative move today for the sake of how the market's been moving. But I do think we can get some for that. So that's what I'm looking at. What's your pick looking like, Bill?
Yeah, you always got to worry about the market conditions when you're making a pick, because the fact of the matter is, a rising tide lifts all boats, and when the S&Ps are volatile, on a negative slope, it's much harder to, you got to take those gains where they show. But I'm going with Dell. I mean, their earnings last night were really positive. I'm expecting the stock to push higher. The last trade I saw was 79.30 when I picked it, so I think it's going to really start to move higher today. They delivered a 56 cent beat on higher revenue. I see the brokers are raising their targets. The market holds, we start moving higher. Yeah, this thing could really see a couple dollar gain today. So I'm going with ticker DELL. That's Dell Technologies.
Well, moving into what's hot off the press, this is the news that's hitting the tape as we speak that will be moving the stocks today. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So, Bill, looking at our newswire alerts, seeing all the headlines that are streaming in, which are the ones we should be letting traders know about?
Well, let's take a look at ticker GWPH. This is GW Pharmaceuticals. They just received a positive opinion for a drug from the European FDA. That just came out a few minutes ago. I also noticed that the European FDA, They also gave this Lispin received a positive opinion from them. That's from the company Exelis, EXEL.
One on Fidelity D&D, ticker FDBC. Fidelity D&D Bank Corp is to acquire Landmark Bank Corp for a $43.4 million transaction.
Ticker TMO, this is Thermo Fisher. It says MISA Biotech acquisition to add about $200 million in revenue in 2021.
One on Foot Locker, ticker FL. Foot Locker dropped 10% to $47.45 a share after their Q4 revenue missed estimates.
Ticker PEG, Paul Edward Grace, this is PSE&G. They updated their 5-year capital spending forecast to $14 to $16 billion.
One from EW Scripps, ticker SSP. The company suspended issuing new guidance because of the economic uncertainty caused by the pandemic.
This is interesting. The CRM, they just put out a headline that Salesforce executives are going to be participating in upcoming investor events. Apparently, they're pushing their executives out on multiple roadshows, upcoming roadshows.
One on Caliber Mining, ticker CXBMF. President CEO Russell Ball is stepping down.
Shares of Twitter, that Catherine Woods ARC that added 1.7 million shares of Twitter, it just says, and they sold Apple and Alibaba.
Anything else interesting for you, Bill?
No, that's it.
Same for me. So traders, keep in mind, you can receive these same breaking stories just like us simply by subscribing at newsware.com. Check us out for a free trial today. It will definitely up your trading game. Moving into our scoreboard, talking about how our picks did from Thursday. I had Norwegian Cruise Lines, ticker NCLH. Had a lot of optimism behind it. Opened high, opened at $32.51. We, of course, said this was a little bit high for us. We wanted to be under 32, at least neutral on 32. And so this was high. We waited. And hopefully you, like me, in your wait, you saw how quick it dropped. It dropped, very quickly down to 30 and then very quickly down from there down to 29. So I was very quick to cancel my order. However, the drop basically, despite a couple waves of rising share prices, ultimately closed it at $28.76. So it didn't turn out the way we'd expect. Not a good pick for us that day. How did yours end up doing, Bill?
I did good. I did DraftKings. That's ticker David King Nancy Grace, DKNG. This thing opened up at $60.39 and just ran out of the gate. Next thing you know, it's at $61.63, easily beating the $1, 1% gain target that we have on here. This was a run into earnings. DraftKings delivered. They delivered some strong earnings. You see, it sold off at the end of the day because, along with the market, but the stock's up 1% this morning. So, yeah, DraftKings was a good winner for me yesterday.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Trade Talk. But traders, you know what to do. Let's get out there. Let's make some green.